And we begin with breaking news just into the 11 Alive newsroom. Centennial High School in Fulton County is now on a soft lockdown. That is according to the Roswell Police Department. Roswell PD say officers are in the area to help with extra patrols. And as a precaution, Hillside Elementary School, which is located nearby, is also initiating a soft lockdown. This is brand new information from the school district, the Fulton County School District. A letter was sent to the Centennial High School community by the Centennial High School principal, Opie Blackwell. We want to read you this letter to the school community in full right now. The principal writes, "Dear Centennial families, we want to provide you with an update regarding today's safety situation. After reviewing the circumstances, law enforcement has determined that we can safely transition from a hard lockdown to a soft lockdown. Officers will remain on campus to maintain a strong presence and continue monitoring for any potential external concerns. A soft lockdown allows us to continue with normal school operations while keeping all exterior doors secured and limiting movement in and out of the building. All students and staff are safe, and instruction is proceeding as usual. We are grateful for the prompt response and continued support of our law enforcement partners. We will update you again with more information as it becomes available." Again, that's the letter just into the 11 Alive newsroom sent from the Centennial High School principal to the school community. Most important updates in there from that school leader. Everyone's safe. No students, no staff were injured. All students and staff are safe. The letter indicates that at some point earlier today, Centennial High School was in a hard lockdown, and then the principal indicating in that letter that after law enforcement assessed the situation, they determined that it was safe for the school to transition to a soft lockdown. What we do not know at this point is what prompted that initial hard lockdown. We are still working to learn those details. As we learn them, we, of course, will share them with you. Most importantly, though, again, we want to emphasize and remind, if you're just tuning in, all students and staff are safe, and instruction is proceeding as usual at Centennial High School in Fulton County. That is according to the Centennial High School principal. We want to turn now to this. It has been a busy forecast week, day, hour. Julie Martin joining us now. Julie, you have been very busy tracking. We had storms, we had rain, we had wind. Now it's cold. What's going on?
Yeah, we started off the week with all of those storms and crazy weather, and then the really cold air came in, and unfortunately that cold air is still with us here for at least another day or so, and then it looks dramatically different by the time we do get to the weekend. So really taking a look at the forecast, we're going to start things off on the chilly side. Once again, that cold air continuing. We will get a warm up though by the end of the week, and it does look like we'll stay nice and dry, so not expecting any big changes there. Taking a look here at what we might expect in terms of the forecast then as we move throughout the next several days. We do still have that weather impact alert that goes all the way through tomorrow morning, and then we will be done with that. But you do need the winter coat once again as you do head out on your Wednesday. So right now we're at 44 in Atlanta. The winds are out of the west around 8. Feels like temperatures are still down in the 30s for a lot of us. So even up in Blairsville, we're feeling like the 20s in some of these places in the North Georgia mountains. And so, yeah, definitely a chill in the air, and we're not going to really warm up much at all throughout the afternoon. The winds are going to pick up a little bit actually throughout the afternoon, back up into the teens, and then eventually probably some gusts up in the 20s. So looking at the forecast wind gusts here, we see by about mid-afternoon, those winds gusting up into the 20 mile per hour range. So again, that's just making it feel a little chillier out there for us as we are dealing with the cold. And then we do take a look at the satellite and radar right now, and really looking nice and quiet, not only here, but all across the deep south after a very active start to the week. So temperature-wise, our forecast track takes us into the mid-40s throughout the day in the downtown area. Does look like we'll top out maybe around 46, 47 degrees or so. And most of us are going to be anywhere from the low to mid-40s. You see there, LaGrange at 46, Dalton at 43. Still a couple of 30s there in Canton and Blairsville. Not climbing quite out of those just yet. And then after the sun sets, we do expect some more clouds to move in. And we'll start off Wednesday much cloudier than today. And We'll have that cold air. We could get maybe around 30 degrees by Wednesday morning. But then things do look up. We are starting to warm up into the 50s or so, at least meeting 50 degrees by Wednesday afternoon. And some of us are still going to struggle to get out of the 40s, but overall mid 50s over the next day or two. So looking pretty good though as we head throughout the afternoon in terms of the sunny skies. It's pretty out there. Temperature wise though, topping out about 20 degrees below average in the 40s. And then we'll be back below freezing after we get past midnight tonight. So we do have another freeze warning. That goes for tomorrow morning till 11 o'clock or 10 a.m. I'm sorry, 10 a.m. So temperatures, as I mentioned, could get as low as 30. So cover up those sensitive plants, bring them inside. And, hopefully you haven't planted all of those beautiful spring flowers just yet. We'll get through that. And then Thursday looks to be above freezing. Friday and then Saturday, Sunday look beautiful. So the cold air starts to retreat. We have a lot of mild air and then eventually warm air that's coming in from the west. By the end of the week, we are looking at a very different picture than what we are today. In fact, temperatures by the weekend are going to be up around 80 degrees. So yeah, we are really seeing the temperature turn around and the flip-flop weather here by the time we get to the weekend. So just hold on, it's coming, and we are staying nice and dry. No chance of rain over the next several days. So overall, it looks pretty quiet out there. Once we get out of this cold, we'll have a mix of sun and clouds for the most part for the rest of the week. And then the temperature is creeping into the 60s, 70s, eventually 80 by the time we do hit the weekend. So what a wild week. We start off with the thunderstorms and the severe weather, Zach, and then the below freezing temperatures, and now we're going to be back in the 80s and shorts by next weekend.
We have been on a journey here. That 7-day graphic, I like the numbers it was going to, the 60s, the 70s, 80 by the weekend. Julie, before we let you go, I got to ask, because I think a lot of people watching are going to want to know, is this it for us for winter weather? Can we start to break out the summer, spring gear for sure now?
Yeah, you can never say never, but we aren't seeing anything down the pike right now that would indicate another really cold blast. But, March, April, tricky months. Mother Nature can be tricky on us, especially this time of year.
Thankfully, we have you and all your colleagues here to keep us on our toes and help us keep track of all this. And Julie, welcome. This is your maiden journey in the stream pod here. So, fun. Julie, what a treat. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we're talking about this weather that if you're in Metro Atlanta, you've seen it. And you've seen the impacts more likely than not as we have seesawed from severe weather, wind, rain, now to the cold weather. That severe weather that came our way in the overnight and early morning hours yesterday left an impact and left some damage in its wake. And we now know that the National Weather Service, it's going to be surveying damage in parts of Upson, DeKalb, and Bibb counties today. So both here in Metro Atlanta and in central Georgia. Our photojournalist, Stephen Boise, always working hard. He spotted a surveyor in Stonecrest earlier this afternoon where a tree crashed into a home. The homeowner, Eric Clark, said that a prayer group was meeting in the home while his friend was in a restroom upstairs. They saw it all happen. Everybody expected to be okay. Clark says, even though there was damage, despite everything that happened, it's all a blessing.
Know how you're going to respond when things get so serious all at once until you're in the middle of it. But God is good and the neighbors are good and we're fine today.
Happy to hear that message and happy to see that everyone expected to be okay. As you look at these pictures here, you see the Bible's out and a prayer group was meeting when that severe weather rolled through and crashed that tree into the home. Thankful everyone is going to be okay as cleanup continues. And good news, as you heard from Julie's forecast, the weather settling down now. So for all of you and who are working to clean up your own yards, clean up your homes, if you are a part of a repair crew doing this work professionally, the weather should be much more favorable for that kind of work. All right, we want to turn now to our man at the Capitol, Doug Richards, live under the Gold Dome. Doug, you are always keeping track of the latest bills and proposals moving their way through the state legislature, and now we are coming up on crunch time as we approach the end of Georgia's 40-day lawmaking session. Doug, there's a particular bill that you are following today, and it impacts homeowners associations and is known as a property owner's bill of rights?
Gosh, that may be what it's called. It's certainly a bill that has been getting a fair amount of attention from both sides of the aisle here in the not only the Georgia House of Representatives, which is where we are now, but also the state Senate. And it really kind of flipped when a powerful Republican from Noonan, Matt Brass, who is the chairman of the Senate Rules Committee, decided to take it on after Democrats had kind of been marching in the wilderness on this issue for a bunch of years. And so this is a bill that actually passed the Senate, came out of the Senate, and a lot of backers sort of realized that maybe it would do some good to change some of the language that in order to sort of perfect it before it got passed by both the Senate and the House. And so it got into a House hearing this morning wherein both people who were for and against the bill spoke. Let's hear from Michael Shepard, who's been really active on this homeowners association issue for a number of years.
Association boards are voluntary, which they are. But you cannot say that oversight is too much for a volunteer board when that volunteer board has the power to take your greatest asset, which is your home. They have the ability to levy you with tens of thousands of dollars in fines.
So that was a point of view that was shared by a lot of people, not only critics of homeowners associations, but even folks who spoke up on behalf of homeowners associations agreed that there were some out there who may have been a little excessive, and the folks we heard from tended to be people who represented associations that were smaller and less aggressive than the homeowners associations that they're trying to rein in with this bill. So the bill got some criticism today, but ultimately the chairman of the bill says he hopes that it will pass out of the House committee on Thursday, get a vote here in the House, and then be able to cross back over before adjournment in 17 days or so, Zach? Something like that. Who's counting?
Who's counting? You're counting, I'm counting, and I suspect all the lawmakers under the Gold Dome are counting. Doug, last question, hopefully a quick one, if I can prevent myself from too long of a preamble here. But how much support does this bill have under the Gold Dome as we do approach that end of the legislative session? Is this something that is likely to pass?
Well, it already passed the Senate, and the Senate it's not a 2/3 majority of Republican senators, but it got bipartisan votes when it passed the Senate. The committee members are bipartisan and chaired by Republicans. So the long answer to your short question is it has substantial bipartisan support, which is part of the reason why they seem motivated to actually make this thing happen in the next 17 days.
Doug, a short answer and a good answer. We always appreciate you, sir. Thank you for keeping us on top of everything happening under the Gold Dome. We will check back in with you later. Thank you, Doug. We're going to go to a quick break right now. We'll be right back after this. Just into the 11 Alive newsroom, we have breaking news coming out of Pickens County in the city of Jasper, where the GBI just moments ago confirmed it is assisting with what they're describing as a shooting situation. The city posting on Facebook moments ago, 29 minutes ago at this point, saying that the city is aware of active law enforcement activity in and around the VA building on East Church Street. The city describing it as a controlled scene, asking people to avoid the area. That VA building they're describing appears to be the Pickens County VA clinic. It's an outpatient clinic on East Church Street in the city of Jasper. That's in Pickens County. 11 Alive has crews on the way to the scene. We are working to learn more. We're going to continue to monitor this very closely. Any new details we get, we're going to bring them to you as soon as we have them confirmed. This is a situation where there may be a lot of things floating out there on social media. We're going to bring you the information we have confirmed, because we want you to make sure that when you hear it from us, it is authentic, confirmed information. So stay with us. We're going to bring you everything we know as soon as we know it. We do continue to monitor another situation, this time in Fulton County, out of Centennial High School, where earlier today the school was on what they described as a hard lockdown. Now school leaders, and specifically the school principal, saying the school is on a soft lockdown. Just a little while ago, the 11 Alive newsroom obtained the letter from the school principal, Centennial High School principal Opie Blackwell, saying in part in the letter that after reviewing the circumstances, law enforcement determined that we can safely transition from a hard lockdown to a soft lockdown. Officers will remain on campus to maintain a strong presence and continue monitoring for any potential external concerns. The statement went on to say from the school principal, quote, "A soft lockdown allows us to continue with normal school operations while keeping all exterior doors secured and limiting movement in and out of the building. Learning and educational efforts continue at the school." The incident that triggered all of this, according to Roswell Police, was a reported off-site threat. Most importantly, we want to stress this, the principal of that high school saying all students and all staff are safe. We're going to continue to keep you up to date on the latest involving that situation at Centennial High School. Thankful all students and staff are safe, and it appears the learning day is getting back on track there. We have other breaking news right now. The National Weather Service confirming that in DeKalb County, one of those strong storms that rolled through our neck of the woods early morning hours yesterday and in the overnight hours was a confirmed tornado. The NWS, the National Weather Service, just confirming an EF0 tornado. That means it had maximum wind speeds of 75 miles per hour. It was confirmed to have touched down in DeKalb County. The National Weather Service saying that the storm, the tornado, was about 135 yards wide and was on the ground for just shy of 3 miles. You're looking at helicopter video right now. Gabby, this is from earlier, correct? Or is this live right now?
This was from yesterday.
Okay. This is an aerial look at one of the homes in DeKalb County that was damaged by those storms. And if you were with us here on 11 Alive Plus and you saw our Marissa Sarback delivering a live report from the ground level looking at some of the damage in DeKalb County, that was the home she was standing in front of. At the time Marissa was out there, that tarp was just in the early stages of being put on top of the home to cover up a hole that was punched in the roof when a tree fell down and knocked into the roof of that home. This is what it looks like a little bit later in the day yesterday, and this is the ongoing repair efforts as these homeowners and others work to clean up after that storm worked its way through metro Atlanta. Again, the big headline here, the National Weather Service now confirming that that storm, that tornado-warned storm in DeKalb County, did indeed produce a confirmed tornado, an EF0, which means it had maximum wind speeds of 75 miles per hour. That tornado, according to the National Weather Service, on the ground for just shy of 3 miles. We'll have much more on a busy day of breaking news coming up in just 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Georgians, get ready. You could soon be seeing some new money hitting your bank accounts coming up in short order, and that is a result of another round of state refund checks. It is part of the one-time income tax rebate we have grown accustomed to seeing in Georgia over the last few years. The Georgia State Senate passed the latest round yesterday, and it now awaits the governor's signature. So here's the breakdown of what kind of money we're talking about and who is eligible for what. Married couples filing jointly will get up to $500. Half of that will go to single filers. Heads of household, I should say, they can expect up to $375. The money is made possible by Georgia's tax surplus, officials say. Governor Brian Kemp said it is part of the state's effort to return billions of that surplus money to taxpayers. Another story we have been following here in the 11Alive newsroom, and another story that you have likely been paying attention to if you live in Metro Atlanta, if you live in Georgia, certainly if you have been trying to fly out of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, or maybe you just have a trip coming up and you are watching what's unfolding at the airport. For the second day in a row, the airport has experienced, at times, quite long TSA checkpoint lines. Yesterday morning, and you're looking at a time lapse of one TSA line from earlier today that the picture tells the story. It stretches throughout a big chunk of the airport there. Yesterday morning, severe weather rolled through, causing ground stops at times that backed things up at the airport. The airport in Atlanta and other airports all across the country are also dealing with challenges with TSA staffing, as the Department of Homeland Security is now into about a full month of being unfunded. This is a partial government shutdown only impacting the Department of Homeland Security, but the DHS is the umbrella organization, the umbrella government entity that sits atop TSA and a host of other government agencies. TSA workers have been working without a paycheck at this point, and some are calling out, others are not showing up to work as they are asked to work without a paycheck, and that is also contributing to these long wait times at times. Gabby, do we have there? Perfect. This is a live look right now through the online portal that tracks the current TSA checkpoint wait times at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson. These numbers have fluctuated throughout the day a bit. This is what it looks like right now. We're going to walk through it together. The main checkpoint for TSA and the domestic terminal, the average wait right now is just shy of 50 minutes. The north checkpoint, just shy of 40 minutes. The lower north checkpoint remains closed, as it has been at the very least every time I've checked this portal over the last few hours. The south checkpoint, it's pre-check only, but if you have pre-check, you're going to be glad to have it today, because that is only a 4-minute wait. And international, this is really good news if you're an international traveler. That wait time is now down to 8 minutes. Earlier today, when we were with you for 11Alive midday, that international checkpoint wait time to get through the TSA lines was about an hour and a half. So dropping from 90 minutes down to 8 minutes, a big improvement. We're going to continue to keep you up to speed on this. It's the world's busiest airport, as you well know, and if you have a trip coming up, we know you're going to be paying close attention to everything impacting your travel, and in particular how long it takes to get to the gate. Gabby, we want to turn to this Cuba news now? Okay. We're going to go to a quick break. It has been a busy day, a lot of developing stories, and a lot of breaking news this afternoon. We're going to continue to follow all of it for you. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. The ongoing military conflict between the United States and Israel and Iran continues. And as U.S. and Israeli strikes continue to strike Iran, Israel said it had killed Iran's top security official, one of the regime's most powerful at the time surviving figures following that initial barrage of airstrikes on Iran. Israeli officials also said that they had killed the head of the Basij force, which is a key militia used to suppress protests in Iran. NBC News' Raf Sanchez reports from Beirut.
Israel today is claiming that it has killed another 2 senior members of the Iranian regime. They say that they have taken out Ali Larijani, who is the secretary of the National Security Council, but has basically been Iran's de facto wartime leader since this conflict broke out. With the killing of the former supreme leader, current supreme leader, wounded, not clear how involved he is in decision-making, it has been Larijani who has been taking a lot of the day-to-day calls about running the country. The other figure killed, according to Israel, is the head of the Basij militia. Now, this is the internal militia responsible for a lot of repression on behalf of the Iranian regime. When protesters took to the streets in January, it was often the Basij who were sent out with weapons to confront them. If Israel has indeed taken out this figure, it does indicate potentially that Israel is still holding on to hopes of potential regime change in Iran, that the protesters might be encouraged to head back to the streets. Here in Lebanon, Israel is expanding its ground offensive in the south of the country. It says it's aimed against Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed militant group, but many Lebanese fear that Israel is preparing to seize the southern end of this country and turn it into a buffer zone, displacing the entire civilian population there. More than 800,000 Lebanese have been displaced so far. That is 1 in 7 in this small country. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Beirut.
We are joined now live by Congressman Buddy Carter, who represents Georgia's coastal 1st Congressional District. He's a Republican who is also currently running for Senate. Congressman, we always appreciate your time. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, hear you great.
All right, Congressman, we just got this update from NBC's Raf Sanchez on this ongoing military conflict against Iran. What's your assessment of how the conflict has been going so far?
Well, I applaud the president for what he's doing. He is doing something that needed to be done for 47 years. Let's face it, Iran has been spreading terror throughout the world for 47 years now. And now we're finally doing something about it. Finally, we have a president who is addressing it. Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and they have blood of American citizens on their hands. Blood of American citizens from the USS Cole. What happened in Israel on October the 7th? Yes, there were 1,000 Israelites who were killed there, but there were also 46 Americans who were killed. Let's not forget that. Over the years, this regime has spread terror throughout the world and in America, chanting "Death to America, death to America." This is something that needed to be done. And I would submit to you that this president has saved millions of lives in the future by prohibiting Iran from having a nuclear weapon. He's made it clear to Iran, you're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we thank him for that, because if they had a nuclear weapon, God forbid what might happen then.
Congressman, what is, in your view, the goal and the end game of this military conflict? At times, the Trump administration has presented it as regime change. At other times, the president has talked about preventing Iran from having the ability to procure a nuclear weapon. What should be the administration's focus and goal and end game of this conflict?
Well, the administration's focus and their end game is clear, and that is to make sure that Iran never has a nuclear bomb, to make sure that Iran quits killing their own citizens, the protesters, over 30,000 that they have killed, to make sure that Iran is no longer a state sponsor of terrorism throughout the world. Listen, I would submit to you that the world is safer now than we were before this started, and with a weakened Iran. And yes, we've had some unfortunate circumstances, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the 13 heroes who gave their life in defending our country and our freedoms. And we thank them and we praise them. But at the same time, this is something that that has to be done, and I applaud the president for doing it.
Congressman, what do you say to some voters, including many Republican voters, who were appreciative of the president on the campaign trail talking about no more forever wars? And now this military conflict is underway. Some Republicans have expressed some frustration with this. What do you say to those voters?
Well, look, none of us want a forever war. And yes, the president doesn't want a forever war. We don't need those. We don't want those. However, we cannot afford to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Now, look, we had Operation Midnight Hammer, and we decimated their nuclear abilities, but they kept right on enriching uranium to try to build a nuclear bomb. They did not learn their lesson. Now they've learned an important lesson, and that is you're not going to have a nuclear weapon. So we make it clear, yes, when will this end? It will end when Iran does not have the ability to make a nuclear weapon, when the missiles that they have aimed at American bases in the Middle East and in our allies in the Middle East, when we have depleted those weapons, then that's when it will end.
Congressman, I want to talk to you about a couple other topics that have been impacting folks here in Metro Atlanta, including the ongoing partial government shutdown impacting the Department of Homeland Security. Before we turn there, though, I do want to ask you one last question on the topic of this ongoing war, this military conflict against Iran. Earlier today, this is breaking news, Joe Kent, he's the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He resigned, saying on social media that Iran, quote, posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. What do you say in response to those comments from Joe Kent?
I would disagree with him. I adamantly disagree. Look, an imminent threat. If you are if you're one of our troops in a base in the Middle East and Iran has missiles aimed at those bases, you consider it an imminent threat. It was an imminent threat, and I applaud the president for addressing that imminent threat. We cannot afford to let Iran do this, and I think he was perfectly within his authority to do this, and I applaud him for doing it. We cannot afford to let Iran intimidate and be the leading sponsor of terrorism, state sponsor of terrorism in the world. They've done it for 47 years now, and it needs to end, and this president is going to make sure it ends.
Congressman, would you support putting American troops on the ground, or do you want to see this remain a primarily airstrike-only campaign?
I do not want to see boots on the ground. Neither does the president. None of us want to see boots on the ground. However, the president is not going to. He's not going to show his cards. He's not going to divulge what he's going to do. He's being very strategic about this, and that's the way he should be. You don't go tell another team the plays that you're going to run. You leave all your options on the table, and that's what this president has done. But we've been very successful with the airstrikes, and we've been able to neutralize them, and this is very important.
Congressman, let's shift gears here. It's a busy week in Washington, and it has been a busy few days here in Metro Atlanta as well. We're now well into the partial government shutdown, impacting the funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Still no resolution to open funding back up for DHS. How do you think this situation should be resolved?
Well, we need to keep the main thing, and that is to get the Department of Homeland Services funded. That is the main thing. Look, here we are in a time of conflict, and John Ossoff and the Democrats are refusing to fund a Department of Homeland Security that's going to protect our country. Look at what has happened. In Old Dominion, we had a beloved soldier, a decorated hero, who was killed, Brandon Shaw, who was a University of Georgia alum, who was stationed at one point at Hunter Army Airfield in the 1st Congressional District. He was killed. We also had the situation up in Michigan where the brother of a Hezbollah officer ran his car into a synagogue. These are acts of terror. This is a time that we need the Department of Homeland Security to protect our country. And what do we have? We have John Ossoff and the Democrats who are putting illegal immigrants and terrorists ahead of the safety of the American citizens by not funding the Department of Homeland Security.
Now, at the heart of this conversation at the U.S. Capitol is a debate and a real policy split over the funding, in particular, of the immigration enforcement sub-agencies under the umbrella of the Department of Homeland Security. I'm talking about ICE and Customs and Border Protection. There are a whole host of other agencies under DHS that don't really touch immigration, things like the Coast Guard, TSA, FEMA, Secret Service, and others. Would you be open to splitting those votes, where there's maybe one vote to fund the immigration enforcement focused components of DHS and another vote to fund those other sub-agencies?
Well, let's keep in mind that for 4 years during the Biden-Harris administration, John Ossoff and the Democrats supported the open borders that let 15 million illegal immigrants into this country. We would be naive to think that there weren't some criminals involved in that and some terrorists who came across at that time. That's why we need ICE to be funded. We need them to be funded so that we can protect our country from these terrorists who came in during this policy of the open borders. We need to make sure that we put American safety first, above any illegal immigrants, above terrorists. Yet John Ossoff and the Democrats, they're doing just the opposite.
Just to be clear, though, for folks who maybe don't follow what happens under the Capitol Dome as closely as some others, over the summer, President Trump's backed Big Beautiful Bill was passed, signed into law, and that earmarked a great deal of funding for the immigration enforcement efforts under those sub-agencies of the Department of Homeland Security. So they should have enough funding to continue in their mission right now, right?
Well, they do, and that's a very astute point, and we appreciate you understanding that. We made sure that that was the case. However, we need to make sure that ICE is funding. This ploy, if you will, that the Democrats are pulling now, John Ossoff and the Democrats, to try to defund ICE is nothing more than a defund the police, an extension of that. That's what they were trying to do a couple of years ago. That's what they're trying to do now. We need ICE. We need them because their focus right now is to get rid of the criminal illegal immigrants who are in our country.
Congressman, just a couple last questions for you here, and I do want to touch on ongoing debate that appears to be set to kick off in the U.S. Senate regarding the SAVE Act, and I want to ask you about that in a moment. Before we turn there, though, just one follow-up on the ongoing conversation about this partial government shutdown, understanding the funding situation for those immigration enforcement-focused agencies. I just want to ask you one last time, to be clear, would you support splitting out the vote to fund DHS into two subvotes, one for the non-immigration enforcement focused entities and another vote for all the others? Or do you want to see this all voted on in one sweep?
There's no excuse why we shouldn't be able to fund all of it at once. However, if that does come up, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But at the same time, we need to make sure we understand ICE is important. Making sure that they are funded is important to make sure that we're protecting our country. Yes, we want our TSA agents to be paid. Over 100,000 Department of Homeland Security employees missed a paycheck last week. We've already had 300 people quit TSA. And we've got the number of absentees have doubled, causing these long lines that you were just showing on your program at the airports during a busy travel time. We also know that FEMA is funded under this agency. And that is something we need right now with all these storms and everything that we've been having. We need FEMA. Also, the Coast Guard, as you mentioned, they are very important to be funded as well. We've got Coast Guard troops who are in the Middle East right now who aren't getting paid. That needs to be taken care of. There's no question about that.
All right, Congressman, let's switch gears in the time we have left here. The SAVE Act is getting a lot of attention on Capitol Hill. Where do you stand on this bill? And for those who maybe are not so familiar with it, what, in your view, would its passage accomplish?
Well, it would accomplish the fact that our elections would be secure because you would have to have a photo ID in order to vote. Over 80% of Americans agree this is common sense legislation. But why does John Ossoff and why did the Democrats not want this? Because for 4 years they supported open borders, allowing over 15 million illegal immigrants to come into this country. Now they're trying to turn them into voters. That is not what we are supposed to be doing in America. You should have a photo ID in order to make sure that you vote. You have to have a photo ID for everything else. If you're going to cash a check, if you're going to go to a rally for John Ossoff, you have to have a photo ID. If you're going to shovel snow in New York City, you have to have a photo ID. Yet the Democrats don't want you to have a photo ID in order to vote. It's just ludicrous. It's hypocritical.
I want to read you something that the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, put out on social media earlier today. He tweeted that Democrats will block the SAVE Act in the Senate, saying in part that the bill purges millions of Americans from voter rolls and kills online mail and voter registration. That was his criticism of this bill. What do you say in response?
I think it's ludicrous that they're saying this. It's common sense legislation. You need a photo ID in order to vote. You need to be a citizen of this country in order to vote. What do you have to do now? You only have to check a box that says, I am a U.S. citizen. Now, and look, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. I'm not going to expect someone who crossed that border illegally to tell the truth about that. I need a photo ID. Americans are demanding this. 80%, when you talk about 80% of Americans, you're talking about Republicans and Democrats as well.
Congressman Buddy Carter, as always, we appreciate your time and your perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach.
We are going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back with much more after this. We want to bring you an update just in the 11Alive newsroom on that developing situation we have been watching unfold in Jasper. That is in Pickens County. The Pickens County Sheriff's Office just a few moments ago posting this update on social media 21 minutes ago. You see it on your screen here. We're going to read it in full. The Pickens County Sheriff's Office describing an active investigation underway at the Jasper VA Clinic, the Veterans Affairs Clinic. The Sheriff's Office saying that the Pickens County Sheriff's Office is assisting the Jasper Police Department with an active investigation following a shooting incident at the VA Clinic in Jasper at approximately 1:30 this afternoon. Officers responded to a report of shots fired. Upon arrival, officers located the suspected shooter, who was confronted and shot by responding officers. One victim was transported from the scene and airlifted to a hospital, their condition unknown at this time. The Post going on to describe it as an active and ongoing investigation with more information to come as more details are confirmed. The Sheriff's Office finishing this post by asking people to avoid the area to allow that law enforcement investigation to play out safely. Again, if you have been with us for the last hour, you know we have been following that situation that has been developing outside of that Jasper VA clinic. 11Alive has a crew on the way there as we speak. And this post, again, just in the last 20 minutes or so in from the Pickens County Sheriff's Office, providing more context and a lot more detail on at least the initial picture of what unfolded there. The Sheriff's Office, again, saying that earlier this afternoon, just about 90 minutes ago or so, officers responded to a report of some shots fired at that clinic, in the area of that clinic, and officers, when they arrived, they identified what they're describing as the suspected shooter, who was confronted and shot by responding officers. One victim identified by the Pickens County Sheriff's Office's post there. That victim, they say, was airlifted to a hospital, their condition unknown at this time. We're going to continue to bring you every update as soon as we have it confirmed on that developing situation and that developing story in Pickens County. As soon as we have more details confirmed, we will bring them to you. Right now, we are going to switch gears here to a different kind of story, and one that focuses on artificial intelligence. We use AI a lot now. Breaking news. It's everywhere. We use it for a lot of things. One person used it to sell his home. It's a South Florida father who made this decision. Chris Anderson reports that that man says using AI here helped him save tens of thousands of dollars.
So this is the house. We're really going to miss it.
After 15 years in his Cooper City home, Robert Levine decided it was finally time to sell. But instead of contacting a real estate agent, he turned to the power of the prompt. ChatGPT.
I really wanted to challenge myself to use AI for the entire journey. Not just piecemeal, every step along the way.
The married father of three says he used artificial intelligence for everything. The planning, the pricing, the marketing, even the paint.
We repainted a couple of rooms in the house because ChatGPT said that's where you're going to get the biggest return on investment. The most important thing it did for us was build out a timeline. Here's when you need to start packing your house.
ChatGPT helped Robert design the marketing materials like his open house handout and the online listing, then told him how to get his home listed on the MLS, the multiple listing service, scheduled his showings, and suggested the best day to list his home.
We ended up listing on a Tuesday.
Turned out to be terrific timing.
And I think within the first 72 hours, we had 5 offers on the home already, which was tremendous.
The Levines still held the open house scheduled for that following Saturday, but by Sunday morning, 5 days after listing their home, they had a signed contract. A contract generated by, you guessed it, ChatGPT.
It's exceeded our expectations.
Robert did hire a lawyer to review the contract and other legal documents, but other than that, his AI assistant did all the heavy lifting. So why did he do it? One of his biggest motivations was saving money.
We estimate that leveraging these AI tools will save us about 3% of the total sale price, which in our case is a meaningful amount of money.
Robert stresses that every case is different, and AI isn't going to replace realtors, but it is a part of our evolving world, including real estate.
The impact they make is very real. And some folks maybe aren't prepared to do that themselves, but the more you use AI, the more confident you'll become in leveraging those tools.
Well, it definitely seemed to work for that man in South Florida. I suspect there may be some realtors out there who might have some other perspective on that, but this is the brave new world we find ourselves in. But you know what you can't beat is a good old-fashioned in-person forecast. And we have meteorologist Julie Martin joining us now. Last time was your first journey here in the streaming center. Now you're a seasoned veteran back again. We are glad to have you in person. This is not a robot. This is real meteorology in person.
Unfortunately, AI gets in our business too.
Hey, look, as a tool, it's great, but we still prefer to hang out with you as opposed to the robots. And it's a busy day, too. We've got cold weather. It's been a lot of changing forecasts lately. How are we looking right now?
Yeah, it's been a really crazy week. We had severe weather earlier this week, and now we've got the cold with us here in Atlanta. The good news is it is short-lived. We will be warming up by the weekend, but we got to get through one more really cold morning. So let's take a look here. The cold is continuing. We will see a gradual warm up though as we head throughout the week, and then it will be dry all week as well. So we still have a weather impact alert. That's really for the cold air that's going to be with us once we hit tomorrow morning. Wednesday morning, temperatures could once again fall back in the 20s, and so for that reason you will want to bundle up with the winter coat, the gloves, the hat, all of it. We are now at 46 degrees. It's a pretty day. There's a lot of sunshine out there, but with the winds out of the west around 12, it is really chilly. Unfortunately, we're not going to get out of the 40s today. So the feels like temperatures, well, we factor in the wind, and they're even colder than that, of course. We're in the 30s in general throughout most of our areas. Some of us below freezing is what it feels like there in the North Georgia mountains. Feels like 33 in Carrollton right now, feeling a lot like around 37 in Marietta, and about the same there in Atlanta. So the winds are going to pick up a bit, actually. They're starting to pick up throughout this afternoon. The gusts, anyway, up around 20 miles per hour as we head in through the remainder of the afternoon and then into the evening. We will see winds die down, though, overnight. So overnight, we can expect a few more clouds out there. Right now, we're quiet on the satellite and the radar, and that really goes across the deep south. A lot of us just in the cold right now. That's really the big story. So the cold temperatures sticking with us today does look like we will not get out of the mid-40s. So about 20 degrees or more below average. And then for tonight, we drop back below freezing once again, and then warming up more tomorrow, a little bit better. We'll be in the 50s, mid-50s for us in general throughout our area. So the next 12 hours are going to feel cold again. We're going to drop back below freezing after midnight. So we have that freeze warning for one more morning. Temperatures below 30, that could kill those sensitive plants. So bring those inside once again tonight. And bundle up as you do head out tomorrow. That goes until 10 o'clock in the morning. So our low temperatures look like this over the next few days, down in the 30s through Thursday. Then we rebound into the 40s on Friday, and through Saturday we're in the 50s, and Sunday as well. The cold air retreats, actually. We have mild air moving in to start, and then some warm air actually coming in from the west, and that is going to really pump up those temperatures as we head over the weekend. Look at this, going from 47 today all the way up to 73 by Friday, and then all the way up to 80 degrees by Sunday. So definitely very topsy-turvy in terms of those temperatures. The rain chances are nil. We will be dry over the next few days, so that is some welcome news also. So overall, your 7-day forecast is really looking pretty good once we get past tomorrow. We warm things up on Thursday well into the 60s, near 70, and then 70s and 80s for the next several days. So we'll just have to get past this little cold hiccup, and hopefully that'll be the last of it, Zach. Hard to tell this time of year.
And it is such a, I set you up the tough question the last time you were here. I said, hey, are we going to get cold weather again like this? And aptly, you said, hope not. But,
yeah, I mean,
the forecasts I know only go out so far.
Yes.
If you live in Georgia, if you've been here for a while, you know that the spring is a topsy-turvy season for us, right?
Yeah, I mean, at least we don't typically get snow like what we saw earlier this week. The snow.
That was
flurries in
unusual.
Georgia. That was unusual. Hopefully we won't get any more of that. Now I can't say the same for up north. They typically even get snowstorms in May sometimes. So we will not think about that.
You know, once upon a time, I did not live here. I did live in Boston, and I vividly remember seeing snow piles well into April.
Yeah, it's such an evil trick. Like you think you're done with it, and then it comes back to haunt you.
Thankfully, we don't have that to worry about here. Julie, thank you. As always, we appreciate it.
Sure.
As we talk about the forecast and the weather that we have all been experiencing together, we want to put this image back up on your screen right now. This is footage from our helicopter yesterday over a home in DeKalb County that experienced some of the force of that severe weather that rolled through metro Atlanta in the early morning hours yesterday and overnight. This is in DeKalb County here. That home had a tree fall on top of it, and we now know that the National Weather Service, just in about the last hour or so, has confirmed that there was indeed a tornado on the ground in DeKalb County. The National Weather Service confirming an EF0 tornado touched down and had maximum wind speeds of 75 miles per hour. The National Weather Service saying that tornado was about 135 yards wide, and it was on the ground for just shy of 3 miles. And our Marissa Sarback has been all over these storms, bringing us the very latest on their impact for the last 24, 36 hours. And she joins us now live once again from Stonecrest. Marissa, what are you seeing there right now?
So actually, Zach, we've made our way over to a home in Lithonia, and I will tell you, it's just a few minutes away from Stonecrest. So we've heard from residents in Stonecrest, residents from here in Lithonia, and residents again in Decatur, which is where you just saw that video out of yesterday. Damage is very similar across all of these three areas. Take a look. This is the home in Lithonia where we spoke with somebody from earlier, just hearing about what happened around 6 a.m. yesterday morning. So 6 a.m. Monday morning, this tree came crashing in. As you said, Zach, the National Weather Service out of Atlanta confirming now it was an EF0 with max winds up to 75 miles an hour. But you can see the damage that even an EF0 can inflict upon these homes and people here. Everybody we've spoken with says they are okay. We do know one woman had to go to the hospital for minor injuries, but she is expected to be okay. But this is significant damage that we've seen from this house here in Lithonia to some homes in Stonecrest, and again over where we saw yesterday in Decatur. This homeowner talking to us a little bit earlier saying that it was a very scary situation and some very tense moments led up to that.
The storm came, there was an alert, the power went out, and everybody had their lantern. But she went into the restroom, obviously because she was in there usually that's the safe room. You go into the restroom, the interior room, no windows. And then we heard this big rumbling noise. It stopped. And then we heard the trees, the crackling sound, and all of us were visibly shaken.
And what you are hearing right there was some of the impact and the human experience of going through storms like that. Marissa, we know you have been on top of this throughout the last couple days here. Tell us a little bit more about what you have been seeing and hearing from folks who have been on the receiving end of the brunt of these, at times, strong storms.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, the interviews are very similar, but also very different just in the same manner, because all of these people have gone through very similar things, but they are experiencing them from their homes, again, about 3 miles wide. That's what we found out from the National Weather Service at this point. So 2.7 miles, that's the extent of this damage, again, from Lithonia to Stonecrest and over to Decatur, which is where we spoke with some families yesterday. The people that we've spoken with say they are okay. It's very traumatic, of course, to have this happen to you when you're inside your home and a tree branch falls on it just mere inches from you. That's what we heard from families yesterday. I spoke with a boy yesterday, an 18-year-old. He had to jump out of the second-story window to get out of his home after that tree fell in there. He was just inches from it. He detailed it to me yesterday that he had to curl up in a ball, and he said, and if he had not done that, if he had not been able to tuck his legs up and pull them, that they would have gotten crushed. A man that we spoke with here in Lithonia earlier said that one woman inside the home did have to go to the hospital. Minor injuries here, but a very scary situation. For the most part, everybody is expected to be okay. For now, reporting live in Lithonia, Marissa Sarback for 11 Alive News.
Marissa, thank you very much. We'll check back in with you a little bit later. Right now, we are going to go to a quick break. We will be right back. As we continue to follow developments under the Gold Dome as the Georgia State Legislature moves towards the end of the session, that means we're getting closer and closer to true crunch time under the Gold Dome. We've already made it through crossover day, and coming up next is sine die before you know it, and that is the final day of the legislative session. There are a whole lot of bills we are following. One of them has to do with the public's access to police body camera footage. For more on this, we want to bring in right now Nora Benavidez with the Georgia First Amendment Foundation. Nora, thank you for your time here. I know your organization has also been following this legislative effort closely as well. Tell us more about this proposal and where the First Amendment Foundation stands on it.
Sure. Well, it's great to be here with you, Zach. You know, SB 482 has gone through a few different versions, and what we're seeing now is a mix of various things that would limit open records and open government. Most concerning is the request requirements now that anyone who wants to get a video of law enforcement would have to include those names first and last of anyone in the image or the video. They would also have to go in person and submit this request to the corresponding law enforcement, and they'd have to do it with a notarized document. Those each are barriers that I think would affect the media, could affect individuals and the public, as well as attorneys who might work on or take on police accountability cases. So we at the First Amendment Foundation are deeply troubled by the ways that this bill currently restricts public access. It isn't just body cams. It could be surveillance footage. It could be any number of videos that law enforcement agencies keep that the public or the media like you might have an interest in.
Nora, there's a lot to unpack here and a lot to dig into. Let me ask you this off the top. I know that some lawmakers who have expressed support for this legislative effort have said this is in response to a number of websites that request this kind of footage en masse and then post it online using it sometimes for what you might call entertainment purposes. Other times it's used in a way to get people to then pay those sites money to get the videos taken down. Lawmakers have argued, at least some of them, that this legislative effort is an attempt to curb that kind of usage of body camera footage. What do you say in response to that?
Well, I think that's a great question, and that's a very legitimate concern. The industry surrounding mugshots and other body cam or imagery and video is ripe for us to consider and for lawmakers to consider, but that's not what this bill does. This bill limits the public's access and the public's ability or ease with which it can request documents, videos, images. And so if we want to go after the industry that is currently forcing individuals to pay them to take mugshots down or other images and videos, that's separate from what this bill now does. This bill drastically changes the way Georgia's open records law would operate. And that's really why it's concerning.
Let me ask you one more question on this component of the conversation, and then we've got a whole lot more to talk about here. This is an important bill and worthy of the attention that it's getting. But as we're talking about these online sites and these online actors, I mean, let's call it what it often is. These are sites that are purveyors of tragedy porn. They post these videos and mugshots, and they use it for entertainment purposes. That's a big difference between what legitimate news organizations do and use body camera footage for. They're two very different components of this conversation. How would you propose lawmakers thread that needle if that is the goal, to prevent the online tragedy porn purveyors from getting access to this stuff, but also ensure that the public and the press does have access to use it for legitimate journalistic purposes?
You know, when SB 482 first was introduced, it was really what was called a mugshot bill. It tried to do various things, to your question, about people and the industries who have these images and post them and then force people to pay them to take them down. When the bill reached crossover day just a couple of weeks ago, language was added in that also now includes law enforcement video. And that radically changed the way the bill can be read. And so I think there are two different solutions here. One is for SB 482 and the sponsors of that bill to remove the language of law enforcement video. That kind of broad language would limit your ability, my ability as an attorney, and the public's ability to access a whole range of videos and images. Then there's the question, I think, separately of what to do with this industry of those companies that buy up and force people to pay for mugshots. And from a First Amendment perspective, I actually think that there's an equally troubling issue here that if we don't have any ability to know who has mugshots or who's even been arrested, there's a concern that people could actually get caught up in the criminal justice system and we would have no idea. And so there are some much more nuanced changes that I would suggest, and I think we want to propose, as we have in previous sessions, that there are time restrictions for how these companies operate and the ways that they can post and when they have to take down such images. But there are really two distinct issues with SB 482, and that's what I want to leave people with, that there's this broader, very troubling problem of the law enforcement video requirements now. And then there's the separate issue of mugshots. So I think we have to take those as separate things because they're really doing different issues, and they're honestly changing the Open Records Act in different ways.
You take us well into the next thing I wanted to ask you about, which is Georgia's Open Records Act. Compared to a number of other states across the country, the Georgia Open Records Act is generally more broad in what it allows reasonably easy access to in terms of public documentation. But correct me if I'm wrong, this is not the first effort under the Gold Dome in recent years to tighten the Open Records Act here in Georgia.
Probably one of my favorite questions. And one of the reasons that the First Amendment Foundation was created was to protect open government and transparency. I think that, when we know as a public what our government is doing, we build trust between civilians and lawmakers, between elected officials and those that they serve. The beating heart of our Open Records Act is really to help keep those accountable that are supposed to be serving us. And so there have been many attempts throughout the years to introduce, even pass restrictions on our Georgia Open Records Act. And part of what we do at the First Amendment Foundation is monitor what happens at the Capitol, work with lawmakers closely to help advance legislation that really maintains the principles of the First Amendment and upholds that core tenet that open government is the heart of what makes this state so wonderful.
There's the old saying that sunshine is the best disinfectant, and that at its core is the real backbone of a lot of what journalists, a lot of the heart of Georgia's Open Records Act. If people watch 11Alive News, if they watch our work, they have seen how impactful making sure the public can see this kind of footage can be. But Nora, I want to ask you from the Georgia First Amendment Foundation's perspective, how important is it that the public does still have access and the ability to see that police body cam footage?
It's incredibly important for the public to have all kinds of videos and images about police conduct. We've seen in recent years that there have been tussles, large-scale protests, civilians who encounter police. And when there's this question of what happened, where is the violence, who are the various actors at play, it's the public's ability to understand and access videos and images that clarify those questions through our Open Records Act. And the media plays such a crucial role in that, being able to get footage, such as you might do, and then cover those incidents, those crises, those moments. If it weren't for you then explaining for folks and breaking down, here are the various players in a given situation, I don't think the public will sometimes understand what's happening. And we are in a moment of intense political tension. We are seeing rising violence across the country, acts of various sorts in other states. And so I think this is the moment when we have to double down on open government, not restrict or close off or limit what the public can have access to.
Nora Benavidez with the Georgia First Amendment Foundation. Nora, thank you much for your time and your perspective. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take you now under the Gold Dome again in just a moment. But as we end that conversation with Nora, I want to take you and give you a peek into the newsroom here at 11Alive, because when we talk about this conversation about reporting and about using public documents and publicly accessible video like police body camera footage, oftentimes when it's of a newsworthy incident, it is also tragically of something that went terribly wrong somewhere in Georgia. When we use that kind of footage, when we air that kind of footage, we take a lot of time behind the scenes, a lot of conversations involving a lot of different people about how to make sure that when we publish and what we publish is both to make sure that the public has the most accurate representation of exactly how things really did play out, but also that whatever format we ultimately opt to use that footage in is used in a way that is as respectful as possible to all of those involved, including law enforcement and including any potential victims. I'm going to end with this. Many victims, many attorneys say that body camera footage and other kinds of law enforcement footage has been essential in them helping to get to the bottom of their case. Many law enforcement officials, in my nearly decade of covering law enforcement both here in Georgia and elsewhere, have repeatedly said that body camera footage has helped them exonerate themselves against false charges of misconduct. That body camera footage bill continues to work its way through the Georgia legislature as we approach the final days of the 2026 session. We will continue to monitor its progress. And we want to take you now under the Gold Dome inside the Georgia State Capitol, where legislators are discussing the state budget with Richard Woods, who is the state superintendent of schools. Let's listen in live.
It's 65% in the state of Georgia.
Chairman Irwin. Great. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Let me thank your staff for the communication that they give me. Matt's standing right there next to you. I talk to him regularly and enjoy getting the information, and I know Director Rusk that he gets with you quite a bit to give me numbers as we need for my committee. And I agree with your comments on Nate. I think we can also agree that entirely too many of our kids are not reading proficiently in this state. Now, exactly what that number is can be debated, but it's too many kids. I also think we can agree that it's going to take a team effort if we're going to get every kid reading on grade level in this state. It's not going to take just the teachers. It's not going to take just the parents and working with the ones when they're 0 to 5. Those parents, it's going to take everybody. And I'm going to personally put a lot of effort in making sure that we're all on the page and we all know the goal and we're all providing to the mission of teaching every child that comes through our programs to read proficiently. I would hope we could agree that reading is foundational to most learning, if not all learning. Mm-hmm. And I commend your talk on 0 to 5. We've definitely got to do a better job there. I would hope that we can also agree that children don't just suddenly become ours here in the state of Georgia when they're 5 years old. They are our students when they're born. And we need to look at it that way and start dealing with them that way. And what can we do to prepare them for when they do come in the door at 5 years old? I also agree with these legislators up here. If we're going to make this a team effort, we've got to have these hard conversations, get in the room, become a team. And I look at this 40 days is our class time as legislators. And it's time for us to be here at a set time and a set place together, just like a class that sits in the classroom studying science. Then when we go home, that's our distance learning. But it doesn't mean we stop being legislators or we don't stop trying to help children to read. I'm using that as the example. And so the communication with our team does not stop. It's distance learning, just like the students that are home doing that on a snow day and learning. So, with the idea, Mr. Superintendent, that it's going to take this entire state to get us to where every kid's reading, let's become a better team. Let's make sure that we're all on the team and we're all pulling together and we're all contributing, we're all getting invites, all of these things to the meetings so that we can accomplish this. I'm very proud of where we've gone this year, the communication I've seen from the DOE the last couple of years, but I also think that we got to get better. And I think that a good spot to start is here in this meeting with this discussion. And we know where we're at. How do we get better being a team? And the one we can start on is literacy, which we just said was foundational. So I'm going to quit with the preaching there. I'm going to finish by the way I started. Your staff, Mr. Superintendent, is doing a fabulous job. They come, they get the data. They give me the stuff I need and my committee members. What I'd like to see, Mr. Superintendent, is more of them here and more time in my committees and more information in the class days that we are here. And I think that'll benefit us and make us a better team. So again, thank you for what you do. I know it's not an easy job. I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And I thank you for your staff, and the same thing to them. And just look forward to a very bright day in this state when all these kids are reading. And I'm kind of like my preacher. I don't seem to stop, but I'll point to you that imagine school where every child can read on grade level. That'll be a different class than I was teaching, and a different environment for the children. And then imagine what they could accomplish in that classroom every single day if every one of them could read on the grade level, that book sitting in front of them. And I think we're going to get there, and we'll get there as a team. Thank you.
Chairlady Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to just reiterate or express my agreement with Chairman Irwin, Chairman Dubnik, and the rest of the committee in expressing how important this communication is. If we didn't communicate with one another, we would get nothing done here during session or in the interim, so it's key. And you've mentioned more than once that you've been having discussions with legislators over various things, but I've been on this appropriations subcommittee for 4 years and was the vice chair for 2 years. And I've never had a discussion about any of this with you or anyone from your office. So I would certainly hope that going forward that an effort would be made to have these discussions with members of this subcommittee, members of the Education Committee, and other members of the legislature, because we've got many who care deeply about education, public education for our students, for the future of the state, who are not on either one of these committees, but also care deeply and work on this type of legislation. So every other agency's director or commissioner under our purview here, this subcommittee has met with us, has met with me over the years, except for the big one. And that's yours. So I hope that going forward, we could see a change there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Be glad to. Superintendent, I want to wrap up with one more question and one more comment. I think that literacy and numeracy, chronic absenteeism rates, focus on early, as has been said more than once to Chairman Irwin's point, they're hours before they walk in the physical building. Graduation rates are all the things that I think will go into a well-rounded, prepared student to, as I have a 16-year-old son, I'll say enter the real world at age 18, whether that's whatever may come after that. But the one that I personally believe will make the most difference is the parental involvement. Are you seeing any gains from initiatives inside your agency as it relates to parent involvement, finding things to talk to superintendents or school systems about as it relates to parent involvement? Is there anything this legislature can learn about parent involvement? Things that need to be, I don't know how we legislate parent involvement, but again, your boots on the ground, you're seeing it, hearing it. I'd just love to hear you speak to tangible items that we can do to encourage parental involvement.
Well, I think that, and of course, I know Chairman Irwin's been in school for a long time. What we see with parental involvement, typically, you're going to see more parents K-5, pre-K-5. They show up for the meetings. They're they're in the school. They're more involved. As you go from middle school to high school, we see a decrease, in parents that show up. But I think that one of the things where we have seen increases in both middle school and high school is that the more that our kids are involved into extracurricular activity, the more that parents show up. So I think there is a correlation. Again, one of the things you find out is that if a child is involved in school or extracurricular activities, their success of actually completing school goes up. So I think, that is something that definitely we continue to involve. I think having, our clubs such as CTA, FFA, all that, and if we can transfer them down to start that involvement early, which we are seeing that in more middle schools this year. And I think that will increase our family engagement and involvement. Sometimes as we, excuse me, looking at notifications for us and our website, and how do we touch our parents, again, whether it's social media and especially through our website. As we begin to expand and revamp the website, my thing is, how do we involve our parents more? Is there a metric in which we can notify them as far as what to expect? What are your rights as parents? And I think, that continues to evolve in the process, which we want to make sure that we continue to see that. When we look at our districts, we'll just say absenteeism. One of the things we have found out is that if there is a point of contact of a person, not necessarily a truancy, person or somebody that comes across with the hammer, but it's like calling, moms and dads, finding out, hey, Johnny's been gone, for a day or so. And I think one of the things that are the valuable lessons, what we're learning, is that having that person, and that may be something we can work on together. Is there a person at school that we need to, perhaps to fund? Is it something we look at QBE that is a direct contact for parents at the school level? Because typically all things are local in that area. I mean, and I think that.
We want to take you now back out to more updates on that developing situation we've been following out of Pickens County, in the Jasper area of Pickens County. As you're looking now live, we are awaiting an update from law enforcement in Pickens County. This is a situation we've been following for the better part of the last 2 hours, following what law enforcement has described as a shooting in Jasper, in the area of the VA clinic there in Jasper. The GBI earlier today confirmed that it was requested to assist with a shooting investigation. You're looking live again here now, if you're just joining us, at law enforcement in Pickens County getting ready to address the press following this shooting. And I believe they've just begun. Gabby, do we have audio? As soon as they begin to speak, looks like we're getting an audio check right now. We are going to turn up the audio and you'll be able to hear this briefing. This is following a shooting earlier today in the area of a VA clinic in Pickens County that happened around 1:30 this afternoon. Let's listen in. Let's listen in right now.
Matt Dawkins, Chief of Police, Jasper, Georgia. Let me know already. Dawkins, D-A-W-K-I-N-S. All right. At approximately 1 p.m., Jasper police officers were dispatched to a report of shots fired at the VA clinic. Upon arrival, officers located the suspect. on the scene. The individual was confronted by responding officers and was subsequently shot during the encounter. One victim was located at the scene and transported for medical treatment before being airlifted to the hospital. The current condition of the victim is not known at this time. The incident remains under active investigation. Additional details will be released at some point.
The suspected shooter, what's that person's condition?
He is deceased.
Did it happen inside the VA, outside the VA, and entranceway?
So at this point, I'm gonna all additional inquiries about the investigation or the facility is going to be turned over to Public Affairs, or VA Public Affairs. So that's VA Public Affairs at va.com. So
The victim who was shot, was it a doctor at the VA clinic?
I do not know at this time.
Okay. Was this an active shooting, or did he go in and just start firing?
It's still preliminary. We don't know the details of that. We do know that it happened, but we don't know what led up to it.
Do you know if the suspect has been treated at this clinic before or has any connection to it?
I have no idea. We do not know.
Can you tell us anything about the suspect? Is he from here?
We do know he is from here. We do
From
know he's,
Jasper?
yeah, that's it.
Can you tell us what you all did after the shooting happened as far as people who were in the Goodwill? Did you pull them out? Did you?
That's part of the investigation. It all happened real fast, but I do know everybody in there. As far as I know, there's nobody else is injured. The people that were inside, just one victim.
Any idea how many people were in the VA when the shooting
I do not know.
And the suspect was shot inside the VA?
No, ma'am. It's outside.
Outside. He was shot outside.
By officers or by a security guard?
As far as we know, officers.
And I mean, you know, we don't really normally come up here that often. What's it like to have something like this happen in such a quiet town?
It'll be eye-opening, I guess, for the citizens here. Shock, a lot of shock factor. We don't have this often. As often, I think the last one we had was the last one we had was a couple of days ago, but 2005. But we've had some events here lately, but just more people. It happens.
And nothing like this is a significant for you.
Yes, this is a significant thing for us.
And you said the victim was transferred via life flight?
Yes.
Okay. And is the FBI coming? Because the business owner or the owner of the building was saying that like everything that happens down there is federal.
Yes,
So
this will be investigated by the federal government, the FBI.
The FBI will be investigating?
Yes, ma'am.
The GBI is there.
Yes, ma'am.
And the GBI is here for standard protocol. Officer fired a shot, so they have
Yes,
to.
we requested them.
And then the FBI will be investigating the shooting inside the VA.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's standard protocol FBI investigating if it happens on VA property?
I would assume yes, just being that it's a federal system or area. Anything else?
Did the suspect point a gun at you guys or do anything?
I haven't. We have not got that far into the whole investigation to even know exactly how that all took place.
How many officers initially responded when they encountered the suspect? How many officers were here?
I can only tell you when I arrived, there's multiple officers, like several officers.
One of the witnesses told me that he heard multiple shots right after another. Any idea what kind of weapon was used?
I do not know. I have very limited information at this point.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We have just been listening in live to Matt Dawkins, the police chief in the city of Jasper, delivering an update close to the scene of this shooting that took place earlier today in the city of Jasper, that is in Pickens County. I want to recap what we have learned and what we know so far as we are now Just shy of 3 hours into covering this incident, the police chief confirming that around 1 o'clock this afternoon, Jasper police were dispatched 2 reports of shots fired at the VA clinic in Pickens County. When officers arrived, the chief said they located a suspect there on the scene, and then, according to the chief, officers shot the suspect outside of that VA clinic. The suspect is now dead. The chief also confirming that the suspect was from the Pickens County area. The suspect was not further identified in that press conference we just listened into moments ago. One victim, according to the chief, was located at that scene and transported for medical treatment. At some point, that transport shifted into an airlift. At this point, the condition of that victim is not known, or at least was not publicly shared at that press conference. The chief saying that he did not know the condition of that victim. He did go on to update that there were no other victims of the shooting. The chief saying that that incident, of course, remains under investigation. The FBI has been called to assist with the investigation, in large part, as the chief described it, because this occurred at near a federal site, which is a VA clinic. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation has also confirmed that they are involved in the investigation of the shooting as well. Governor Brian Kemp has also released a statement in connection to the shooting, sharing this on social media just before 3:30 this afternoon. He said, quote, "As we continue to monitor the incident at the Pickens County VA clinic and receive further updates from law enforcement partners on the ground, I ask all Georgians to join us in praying for those impacted and for our first responders." Argalat Malamed is on the scene. You heard her asking questions during that press conference, and just before that press conference began, she spoke with somebody who says they were in the area and heard the shooting unfold. This is what that witness said.
I felt nervous when I was when you wake up, you feel something, and I felt butterflies, and my wife's homesick, and I was coming in here to buy her something special to help her get better, and not knowing that I almost lost my life in here.
A frightening situation unfolding in Jasper, in Pickens County. The police chief echoing that sentiment, saying that this kind of thing doesn't happen often in Jasper. He called it an eye-opening incident. He said it was a source of a lot of shock in that small community there. Again, to recap, if you have been following this story as we have been tracking it all afternoon long, the chief of police in Jasper, Matt Dawkins, said around 1 o'clock this afternoon that Jasper police were dispatched to a call of shots fired at the VA clinic there in Pickens County. When they arrived, officers identified a suspect. Gunfire was exchanged. Officers hit the suspect. The suspect died. The suspect was from Pickens County, the chief said. One victim was located at the scene, transported via airlift. Their condition at this point not known. Investigation still very much underway. The FBI and the GBI all involved in the investigation into exactly what happened here, why it happened, and all of the facts involved in how the situation played out, a situation that the police chief, Matt Dawkins, described as one that unfolded very quickly once officers got on scene. We're going to continue to bring you the very latest in this developing story out of Pickens County, including coming up on 11Alive News at 4 in just about 10 minutes. Right now, we're going to go to a quick break. We will be right back. And this story in Pickens County continues to develop. It appears there is more information being relayed by law enforcement there on the ground in Jasper right now. Let's listen in.
On that, you guys can probably reach out to the VA and they can make a statement as to whether they're going to open and to continue care and services for the vets.
And your name and title, please.
It's Captain Chris Leake, L-E-A-K-E, and I'm with the Pickens Sheriff's Office.
The last question I had was just the suspect. Was he a member? Was he military? Was he a member? Was he someone who...
We don't have that information, and now that's going to be part of the investigation. And I would encourage you guys to reach out to the VA. They'll be able to provide that information once their investigation is concluded.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
We have been following all afternoon long. Developments and new pieces of information continue to come in. That was Captain Chris Leake with the Pickens County Sheriff's Office delivering a bit more information as we joined that interview in progress. Our Galat Malamed and I believe photojournalist Mike Nicholas asking questions of Captain Leake, looking for some more details and information on how exactly everything unfolded there in Jasper just moments ago. If you were with us, you heard from Matt Dawkins, who is the chief of police there in Jasper, who delivered that larger update just moments ago that, again, officers responded earlier today to reports of shots fired in the area of that VA clinic in Jasper. That's a community in Pickens County. When officers arrived, they spotted what they described as the suspect on scene. Officers shot that suspect. The suspect was killed. One victim was located at that scene and was airlifted for treatment. Their condition was unknown. FBI and GBI involved in the investigation into this incident, and the governor, Brian Kemp, weighing in as well just before 3:30 this afternoon, saying on social media, quote, "As we continue to monitor the incident at the Pickens County VA clinic and receive further updates from law enforcement partners on the ground, I ask all Georgians to join us in praying for those impacted and for our first responders." We'll be right back. All right, you ever go to the grocery store and see somebody working the checkout line and think, boy, they are really good at what they are doing? Or, because so many of us are bagging our own groceries now, you ever be in the self-checkout line and think, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I got a little rhythm going. There are levels to this kind of thing. There is an 18-year-old who is turning heads for how good he is as a grocery bagger, and there are competitions of these kind of things. He just won the national title for best bagger in the country. How hard can it be to get to the top of the grocery bagging game? Our Caitlin Ross has that answer.
Checkout is precise in Rocco Camerata's lane. There's a plan for every item that goes in the bag.
Put your 2 walls in and then get 2 heavy items, put those on a side, and just fill the rest with filler items.
And his system paid off.
This year, I went 2 nationals and won it all.
The National Grocers Association Best Bagger Championship. Rocco was crowned #1 in the country just days before his 18th birthday. But does any regular shopper stand a chance in the checkout lane?
If I train you.
So we got to work.
I gotta hype myself up here. I'm a little nervous. All right, I gotta build a wall.
Judges track both speed and technique, so the pressure is real.
What do I do with this? This is too much. We're falling down.
Rocco trained for months ahead of the competition, making sure his execution was flawless.
You done yet?
Nope. Wait, you're done? No! How do you do that so fast?
Baggers earn points if they finish in under 53 seconds.
You still have both your crushables left.
What are my crushables?
And judges deduct points if glass jars touch.
I lost miserably. I gotta keep training.
Yeah.
I gotta hit Rocco's den.
Might be a lost cause.
For Rocco, the job is a family tradition.
It's in the blood, for sure.
His dad, Martin, has worked at Publix for 32 years. His parents met at the grocery store, and his older brother competed in the big show.
He definitely wanted to one-up him, and I think he did that.
Rocco earned $10,000 for his first place finish.
I just hope he's more proud of himself for his accomplishments than anything else. It's something that he worked hard for.
And after the national title, he's still working in his lane.
I should keep my day job.
Probably. Me too, though.
Well, Caitlin is always the champion of telling great stories here at 11Alive, but our hats are off to that young man taking home the title. And congratulations to a proud dad there, too. Much more news up next as 11Alive news at 4 o'clock is just moments away. We'll see you there.